The following is an informational program from the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's Office. The information contained in this program is solely for the use of the people of Sangamon County to make them more aware of the services of the Circuit Clerk's Office. The employees of the Circuit Clerk's Office cannot give legal advice. Hello and welcome to another edition of Circuit Clerk Presents. My name's Paul Palazzolo, your Sangamon County Circuit Clerk, and as always, a huge thank you to the students of Capital Area Career Center and their advisor, Paul LaMantia, and the digital imagery room that helps make sure that these studio productions go out, and we're very pleased to be working with them as well. Today's topic on Circuit Clerk Presents is on expungements, and that might be a term that's unfamiliar to many. It was unfamiliar to me prior to my arrival in the Circuit Clerk's office in Sangamon County, but it's a very interesting topic, and it's certainly a helpful topic for individuals who might be able to take advantage of the expungement process or the sealing process in the court system. I have two individuals today who are going to help us understand expungements and sealing. Those two individuals are, to my left, Greg Cluckman of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office in the criminal division. His team kind of works with handling all of the expungements that are requested and making sure that they are handled appropriately. And to my right is Dan Mosier of the Sangamon County State's Attorney's Office. And Dan in the State's Attorney's Office kind of works with the top prosecutor of Sangamon County, John Millhiser, to ensure that that office is run effectively on behalf of us as citizens of Sangamon County. So Greg and Dan, let's start with Greg and talk about the very, very first question that makes sense. What is an expungement?
An expungement is a court procedure that an individual can have to take his criminal record off of the records so it's not available to the general public or to general law enforcement.
Well then, if that's an expungement, then what is a seal? And please help describe the differences between expungement and sealing.
The seal is very close to an expungement. It's the same process, but on the seal part, your record is still maintained on our record system. The general public cannot see it, but law enforcement can still see it.
So then an expungement, how does that help a citizen, either expungement or sealing? What would be the advantages of doing that?
Well, both of them are beneficial because nowadays more and more places are doing background checks for housing, for job applicants, and if you have something on your background that you are not too happy about, that maybe might not get that job that you want, you can have this taken care of to where they will not be able to see it when you do go for job interviews.
And how about sealing?
Sealing, if it's a private company, they probably will not be able to see it, but more law enforcement and some state agencies can still see it when it's a seal.
And that's an S-E-A-L.
Correct.
Seal, and then sealing is the procedure of doing that. So what paperwork is required, and does the Circuit Clerk's Office provide that paperwork to begin the process?
Yes, there's different packets. There's one packet for expungement. There's various packets for seal, which Mr. Mosier will probably get into a little bit later on. We provide all the packets in our office. They come in, they can fill it out, and we look at all over to make sure they're all done correctly and everything else, but everything is provided by our office.
And what are the fees that are involved with the sealing process or the expungement process?
The fees are basically the same. It's a $60 court fee to get a court date through our office. Then the state police do charge a $60 fee to take it off of their records. So it would be a grand total of $120, and that is per case that you are having sealed or expunged.
And that's partially the Circuit Clerk's Office responsibility of the expungement and the sealing process, and the State's Attorney's Office is involved as well. So Dan, what is the State's Attorney's role in the expungement process?
Okay, well, under the law, the State's Attorney's Office is one of the agencies that can object to someone's petition to seal or petition to expunge if for some reason they're not eligible to have it sealed or expunged, or they shouldn't have it sealed or expunged.
What would not be eligible for expungement?
Okay, well, to just look at expungement as opposed to sealing, something a lot of people don't know is that if you've been convicted of a criminal offense, in Illinois, you cannot expunge any offense. And that's very strict. It's one of the most strict states just for expungement.
So then, just to be clear, expungement is not possible with any conviction for an individual in the state of Illinois.
Correct. If you've been convicted of any criminal offense, and that includes a felony or a misdemeanor, you cannot petition to expunge any part of your criminal record.
Can I file for an expungement in any county?
You file for an expungement, or for a seal for that matter, in the county in which you were arrested, or in the case of a sealing, convicted. So here in Sangamon County, we can help you with your offenses that happened in Sangamon County. If you were arrested or convicted in another county and you moved, you're going to have to contact that county where the incident happened to get that taken care of.
If you could help me understand what type of cases can be expunged, the range of possibilities.
Okay, so as you heard Greg describe, expungement is better, and if you can't expunge, you want to expunge. But because it's better than a sealing, it applies to fewer cases. And mainly it applies to, let's say, if you were arrested but were not charged. You can get that arrest expunged off your record if you have no other convictions. If you were arrested and you were charged, but the charges were dismissed, that record of the arrest and dismissal is on your record. You can get that expunged. And finally, if you pled guilty to an offense, but you were not convicted, you were given what's called an order of court supervision in Illinois. If you have no convictions on your record, you can expunge the order of supervision.
Are there any, other than convictions, any other specific cases that cannot be expunged?
There are a few, and the big one that I would say is DUI. DUI orders of supervision cannot be expunged or sealed in Illinois.
Any other types of cases that can be just sealed as opposed to expungement?
Yes, because sealing only applies to the general public and not law enforcement agencies. There are a wider range of cases that can be sealed, and most importantly, if you've been convicted, most convictions, I would say, can be sealed. There are exceptions, but the main advantage to sealing is if you've been convicted of something, you may still be able to seal an offense on your record, even though you cannot expunge.
Now, Greg and I kind of earlier discussed about the filing and how the papers that are available for filing are in the circuit clerk's office. Is there a waiting period involved in filing?
There are waiting periods, and the different waiting period is going to apply to you depending on what you want to do and what you are trying to take care of on your record. So let's say that you're planning to expunge, okay? Let's say that you pled guilty and you got an order of supervision. The waiting period is going to be 2 years to expunge that order of supervision. And waiting periods start when your sentence ends. So if I was sentenced to 2 years of court supervision, I complete the supervision. At the end of that 2 years, my 2-year waiting period starts to expunge the supervision. That 2 years applies in the vast majority of cases. The main exception, I would say, is first offender drug probation for a drug case. That is going to be a 5-year waiting period. And that applies even if the judge or your lawyer tells you that the case will be dismissed. Just like for anything else, that first offender drug case is going to be on your record. It'll say that it was dismissed, but it's on your record. If you want to expunge that, it will be a 5-year waiting period for that, 2 years for anything else.
What's the rationale, in the court's opinion, for that waiting period?
It's basically to make sure you can go a period of time without committing any more crimes. Okay, so during this waiting period, whether it's the waiting period for expungements or for sealings, you have to keep your nose clean, so to speak. Don't commit any more crimes.
That would be wise in any circumstance.
Indeed. If you fail to stay out of trouble with law enforcement, your waiting period could reset, and you won't be eligible to seal or expunge until the 2-year waiting period, or 3 years in the case of sealing and convictions. has ended.
Okay. Greg, do I have to go to court for the expungement or the sealing process?
Yes, right now, a court date is mandatory. The state's attorney's office has started a new program to where if you live out of state or out of town, it might be a hardship coming to the court date. We do that on a case-by-case basis. I'll walk over and talk to Mr. Mosier, and sometimes they do waive an appearance if you live out of town or out of state.
So then, when would a court date be after I've gone through the process? How does that, we've gone through the waiting period, we've
Filled your paperwork out and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
When you pay your fee in our office, there's a 2-month waiting period for your court date, so it's set 2 months out by state law.
and the rationale for that waiting period?
So the state police and the rest of the agencies can do a background check on you to make sure that you are telling the truth when you did fill the forms out.
And then how does the state police get involved with that continued background work?
We send the petitions to the state police and the rest of the agencies. All paperwork we do send out to all law enforcement agencies. We take care of all that. And that's basically a notice that this person wants to have their case expunged or sealed, so they can start their background investigation to whether they can say, yes, it can be expunged or sealed, or no, they might object.
Okay. And to start the process, I mean, where can I obtain information or get some help to complete the paperwork? And do I need to involve an attorney?
An attorney is not required, and to start the process, you can come into our office. We're limited with what information we can give you. We can give you your case number, the date of arrest, the arresting agency, and information on your disposition, like what charges were, if there was supervision, or if you pled guilty. We're kind of limited on that by state law. We refer a lot of people to the Office of the State Appellate Defender. They have a toll-free number and a website to go to. They can give a little bit more legal information and help on filling out the paperwork than we can. And they can also kind of give you a heads up about whether it can be expunged or not prior to filling out your paperwork and what the waiting periods are.
I think it's important to note that the circuit clerk's office, nor the state's attorney's office, can provide any legal advice. I think that's whether you're at the counter of the circuit clerk's office or visiting with one of the employees of the state's attorney's office, we are forbidden from providing any type of legal advice. All we can do is just kind of show you what is necessary to do, and then
Right.
how you do that or the advice you receive in that would not be something that we could provide. So
Correct.
I think that's important to reiterate. We talked about the waiting period, Dan. Do those waiting periods apply to dismissed cases or verdicts of not guilty?
They do not. If you have your case dismissed until you were not convicted of anything and have no court supervision, or if you were found not guilty, you can expunge or seal, as the case may be, right away. And just to add on to something that Greg said,
Sure.
He's correct. You do not need an attorney, and many people go ahead with seals and expungements without an attorney. It might help because these are very complex laws and they change a lot. I mentioned earlier that the period of the waiting period for a seal is 3 years. Well, until the 1st of January 2016, it was 4 years. So if you read anything online that says you have to wait 4 years to seal a conviction, that's now wrong. An attorney could keep up with the law and could advise you, whereas, as you stated, the circuit clerk and the state's attorney cannot.
It might just be wise to be prepared with having an attorney that you can at least contact for some basic advice, at least some knowledge and some shepherding when it comes to laws that might change at the beginning of every calendar year. Good stuff. We'll be right back after a short break, but the topic of expungements is something that we probably can delve into a little more after that break with a few more questions. Thank you for watching. Please join us right after this break.
So where do you go every day, man?
CACC,
What the heck is CACC?
it's where you can learn a skill for a career you like.
Really? That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, let me show you some.
The Capital Area Career Center offers many vocational and technical programs, providing a hands-on experience for students to explore real-world career opportunities. With over 600 students from 27 different schools, we provide a unique high school atmosphere. If you're looking for a chance to explore your future, consider CACC, education that works.
Welcome back from the break for this continued episode of Circuit Clerk Presents. And this particular topic of this episode is expungements and the sealing process. A bit of a complicated legal process, but certainly beneficial to those looking to help their records from anything that they may have had them done in the past. My name's Paul Palazzolo, your Sangamon County Circuit Clerk, and reintroductions. To my left is Greg Kleckman. He is an employee of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's Office in the Criminal Division. And to my right, Dan Mosier, an Assistant State's Attorney in the Office of State's Attorney John Milheiser. We're going to continue our topic on expungements and sealing, and the next question goes to Dan. Say if someone received supervision and the court told them that it would not be on their record, but now it's showing up. Anything that you can tell us why that's happening?
Sure, I hear that a lot, and if you've heard that from a judge that, or from your lawyer say that you're getting court supervision and so it won't be on your record. What they mean is the conviction that you would have gotten will not be on your record. Everything that happens in court, including an order of supervision, a conviction, or a case that was dismissed even, will stay on your record unless you get it expunged or sealed. And that applies to an order of supervision. It's commonly believed that something like that will automatically drop off your record. That's not really true. The record of the order of supervision that you got will stay on your record unless you expunge or seal it.
Okay. Now, we've talked about how the State's Attorney's Office has the potential to object. What is that objection, and what would cause the State's Attorney's Office to file an objection?
Okay, well, it's important to remember that you are not entitled to an expungement or a seal. It's ultimately a judge who decides whether you get one or not. And what an objection is either the State's Attorney's Office or the Illinois State Police saying to the judge that they do not think you should be able to expunge or seal. And that does not necessarily mean that you won't be able to. That is up to the judge. The common reasons why an objection would be filed are, number one, you're just not eligible under the law to have your case sealed or expunged. As I said before, there are exceptions, and if you're not eligible under the law, the judge won't let you and cannot let you expunge or seal. There might also be objections filed if you have not stopped committing crimes, let's say, or if you've said something dishonest on your petition to expunge or seal. Of course, the reason you're petitioning is because you've done something wrong. You need to disclose everything you've been convicted of or arrested for, and there's no reason to try to hide anything on that petition. Those are some of the reasons why an objection might be filed. You always have the right to go to court and to argue to the judge why you should get an expungement or a seal.
Now, earlier you had referenced the Illinois State Police. I don't know, did you imply that they could also be one of those objectors? And are there other agencies or offices that can play a role in the objection process?
The state police does have the right to object. And as Greg mentioned in the first segment, they have 60 days in which to do that. You have to wait those 60 days before you get your court date. The state's attorney's office may also object. And the important thing to remember is the state police is going to have your background check. They will know if you've been convicted of something. So don't try to petition to expunge something if you have been convicted of a criminal offense. Petition to seal if you're eligible to seal the record of your conviction.
Any other offices besides ISP or state's attorney?
As far as objections, it's just those two offices.
Are there any agencies that will not expunge, even after receiving a court order to do so?
If the arresting agency or the state police gets a court order, they should, of course, comply with the court order and expunge or seal your record. However, there can be issues of interpretation with the order. There are possibilities of problems with the order. So what I tell people is keep a copy of your order, which you will be given, of your order from the judge, expunging or sealing your offense. Keep that wherever you keep important papers, because you might need it if there's a problem with expunging your case at the agency level. You still got that order from the judge that you can, if necessary, show to employers to clear up exactly what happened with your case.
And now with Greg, in the circuit clerk's office, how long, once an expungement or a seal is approved, does it take to come off of somebody's record?
Usually with our office, it's usually off of our records within a week or two. That's what we strive for, to get it off quickly. State police, that's another story. It takes them anywhere from 30 to 90 days to get it off of their record. So that's why it's important to get this going early, because people might think it only takes a month or it only takes 2 months. With the state police, if they're, depending on what kind of job they're going for, that could still come up on their background check. And it's clear on ours, but the state police might take a little longer to get it off.
And so be able to be referenced by a potential employer
Yes.
or a potential landlord. What if an individual can't afford the filing fees?
We do have fee waivers available in our office. They can come in. We ask that the fee waivers are not filled out until your paperwork has been approved by the state's attorney's office. If that's approved, we do go ahead with the fee waivers. They are filled out kind of like the paperwork with the petition. The same information's put on there. It's then taken up for the judge, and the judge has the approval to either do a full fee waiver, they might do a partial fee waiver, or they might deny it all, and you still have to pay the full $60 to us, and then $60 to the state police.
Greg, you referenced the paperwork, but Dan, does your office help filling out the paperwork at all?
What we will do is, if you prepare your own paperwork to file, we will pre-approve it to make sure you're eligible. And that way you won't waste 2 months of your time going to court and finding out that you were never eligible under the law to expunge or seal in the first place. I cannot fill out paperwork for people, and I cannot give people legal advice, in other words, telling them what to do. So I get questions sometimes, what should I do? What should I fill out? Will you fill it out for me? The answer is always no, and that's just because I cannot act as an attorney for the general public. I work for the state's attorney's office, and like the circuit clerk, I cannot give people legal advice. I'm happy to give people the answers to general background questions. Sometimes people just want to know the definition of a term that appears on the form.
Are there any offices that can help an individual with filling out that paperwork or providing any answers to questions?
Well, only an attorney can give legal advice. Now, if you're unable to obtain your own attorney who can represent you, I would suggest Land of Lincoln Legal Aid. They have a toll-free number that people can call. And another resource that I would suggest would be the Illinois Office of the State Appellate Defender. And they also have a toll-free number that you can call and ask whether you are eligible to expunge or seal in your particular case. They also have a great website that's very informative with flowcharts, frequently asked questions, and other information that will basically explain to you whether you can expunge or seal your particular offense that you were charged or convicted of in Illinois. It's something that I would encourage someone to do if you're not represented by an attorney in your expungement or sealing case.
If I'm told that I'm not able to expunge or seal a case, what other options are there?
Okay, well that happens quite a bit. As I said, Illinois is very strict with expungements, and although sealing has become a little easier, there are still cases that cannot be sealed. For example, felony cases, class 1 and 2, violent felonies, things of that nature. There is what's called executive clemency, or what people might know better as a pardon. That actually comes from the governor of Illinois, and only the governor can give you a pardon for your offense. That pardon would allow you to expunge the offense, even though you weren't eligible before. What you would have to do is fill out a completely different form from the forms that allow you to expunge or seal. The original of that form actually goes to something called the Prisoner Review Board, and that's the agency that advises the governor concerning clemency, or in other words, pardons. Now you will end up giving a copy of that paperwork to the state's attorney's office, but it is not the same as an expungement or a seal. And so you might want to try to talk to an attorney if you cannot expunge or seal about seeking executive clemency or what's called a pardon with the Prisoner Review Board, which will ultimately go to the governor.
We usually see those governor pardons come out in the last week of December, right at the end of the year, like little Christmas presents that
Sure.
when we read about those in the news.
Sure, they do, and all I can tell you about it is it's a long process, it's a lot of waiting. As with an expungement or seal, no one is entitled to get a pardon, but it is the last option available for you if you're not eligible for an expungement or a seal. So I'd encourage anybody who's not eligible to talk to an attorney about that.
Absolutely. Greg, does the circuit clerk's office offer any kind of seminars or kind of explanatory workshops to help inform about the expungement or the sealing process?
We do. We have various seminars throughout the city at various locations throughout the year. And if anybody would be interested, they can contact our office and we can kind of tell them where our next one would be, or maybe our next one or two where they could possibly attend to get more information.
And it's important to note that at these seminars, the circuit clerk's office that we conduct, we cannot provide any legal advice. So we just want to be clear
No,
that
again,
neither the
it's
circuit
only
clerk
the
or the state's attorney can
basic
provide any legal
information.
advice. Well, Greg, thank you very much. A very interesting topic, particularly if one needs the process of expungement or sealing any kind of case or record that might be there. And Dan, thank you for your time and effort on behalf of the state's attorney, John Millhiser, for being here to help explain the expungement or sealing process and also the pardon process. We kind of alluded to that with the Prisoner Review Board a little bit too, which is above the county. That happens at the state level, but it certainly is an additional road that one can go if expungement or sealing has not been positive for them. So again, and thank you for watching. My name's Paul Palazzolo. I serve as your Sangamon County Circuit Clerk, and Circuit Clerk Presents is in partnership with the Capital Area Career Center and the students under Paul Lamantia's class on digital work and video and filming. Please, if you have any questions about the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office, please don't hesitate to use our website, www.sangamoncountycircuitclerk.org. All one word, sangamoncountycircuitclerk.org. We can hopefully have any questions answered for you on that website address and any additional information you might look for, the number of services that we offer, whether it's a passport or any type of access to information about the court system. We have that there on our website. Again, my name is Paul Palazzolo. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you'll join us again on the next issue of Circuit Clerk Presents.